Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. And Joyce, we're just chatting here. A lull, it seems. There was no emancipation news break or Michelle Williams.
Were you bracing for something on Columbus Day?
I guess so. I don't know. Nothing happened though. But we have a lot to talk about because we saw the movie Till last week. Tar opened in theaters. A lot of fun things at New York Film Festival. But Till, Joyce, we saw it in the same room. We did not sit next to each other though. I came in right before it
No,
started.
didn't, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't need people around me.
So. No, it's fine. I sat in the back. A very nice screening. What you think of Till after we kind of went in expecting it to be very forward facing for Danielle Deadwyler as a Best Actress contender after the response from the premiere at the New York Film Festival, and how'd that pay off for you?
Again, just like with Fabelmans, nothing changed for me.
Yeah.
Just like that was kind of what was advertised with Till. Also with the, like you said, the reviews from its premiere like last weekend or 2 weekends ago, I guess now. Yeah, it's just like Danielle Deadwyler's movie, really. Yes. The movie itself is a totally serviceable, passable. I would say the word that came to mind for me after I saw it was beautiful.
Okay.
Like it's just like a very respectful portrait of Mamie Till. Mm-hmm. And I actually, the more I thought about it over the weekend, I was like, it was kind of like two movies trying to be one, because I think it works very well as, just a mother with unimaginable grief. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the strongest parts of the movie are the second act after she finds out Emmett is dead, and then she demands an open casket and you see the mutilated body. It's very moving. She's also a great crier. Give her the Oscar for best crier.
Definitely a great crier.
But then obviously this sounds so dumb to say because this obviously spurred her activism, but then I think like when it transitions into that and like in the third act and everything, when she meets like the NAACP and all these people, I think in the interest of also trying to like finish the movie or keep it within like a 2-hour runtime, actually it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes, but it hits very predictable beats, I would say, and the dialogue is not totally sharp, and it's just like like what's coming, which is fine because like a lot of, I mean, this is real life, like you knew what happened unless you've never heard of Emmett Till before. Sure. But it's still just kind of, I think like her performance elevates the movie.
Yeah, I left it. I agree with a lot of that. I definitely did nothing change my perspective on her performance. I had her in. I moved her in last after all the reviews, and then I was like, yes. And now I'm like, I actually think she could maybe win. I don't have her winning yet, but I have her in my top 3 in Best Actress. I think she's going to be a very formidable contender in that category. The two things I thought of were it reminded me a lot of like a 90s inspirational drama. Yes. It's like very, and I found that I was like, is that the most subversive part of the movie? Is that it's actually a very conventional mainstream, like studio movie from the 90s that is now released in 2022. And I think, yes, I think it's like, I don't want to say it, like, obviously it's about Emmett Till's murder. And like you mentioned, like there's a lot of traumatic moments in the movie, and it does shy away from there's no explicit violence, I would say, but obviously the aftermath of violence
you don't see the lynching, but you hear it.
So it's like, not a breezy watch, but I would say at the same time, it is very watchable. Like at no point was I like, it just reminded me of like such a mainstream studio drama, and it just hits
right. And even like the first act too, where it's just like setting up like what is going to come. He's going to go down to Mississippi and he's going to get brutally murdered.
Right.
Yeah, but it's like all these things, like she's like warning him like it's different down there.
Right. So I thought that was like pretty interesting, and as like I think one of the things, at least from the early stages of the reviews before I saw it, was like people being like, I don't know if it's going to be tough for MGM and Orion and UA or at that conglomerate to get people to watch the movie, but I actually think it is really watchable, even though it's about a difficult subject matter. It's not like,
I don't think I don't see people turning it off.
No,
if they have like a screener, I think it's just a matter of getting them to watch it.
But I think they maybe could. I don't know. I just feel like it's like, I think the response, the word of mouth would be like, actually, it is pretty, like, it's not it's not as traumatizing as a watch as like I think maybe you would have expected. You know, like we were talking about, like I think we mentioned this like last week, is like 12 Years a Slave, or it was like, are people going to watch this? And like, did people even watch it? Like that was like an Ellen joke at the Oscars. And like, this is not as, it's definitely not as violent and not as traumatizing in its violence as that, obviously. So I think people would watch it personally.
Yeah, it's not violent, but
Right.
it is still traumatizing. I think you could still be triggered by it, and I totally
Yeah.
understand if you don't want to watch this movie too.
Yeah. And the other thing
Um,
I thought watching it was, we were talking about like what are the other categories that she could maybe get like the movie could get a nomination in to help her as a winner. And I was like, a lot of the tech stuff I think is great. Like I thought the costumes are like gorgeous, and the cinematography I think is like really strong. And I could see those both like being pretty solid contenders. And I think the costumes are like I mean, I'm like, I doubt it would win because you're going to be up against like elaborate costume movies, seemingly like Black Panther, which had won previously, or Woman King, or whatever it is. But I was like, the costumes are really great, and the way they're photographed, I think, is gorgeous. So I was like, I definitely think it can get more than one nomination. Having watched it, I don't think it's going to be like her lone nomination.
yeah, it does. It looks pretty, I would say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't predict it for either of those right now. I would say its best chance for a second nom is probably Song. The
It has a
Jasmine
song
Sullivan
at the
song.
end. Yeah, it's a credit
Yeah, it's
song, but
called
yes.
Stand Up, I believe, which would be like the fourth nominee in like 4 years with the word stand and up in the title.
Yes.
You know, it's just like inspo Mad Libs if you're trying to get a
Yeah.
Oscar nomination for original song.
Yeah. It's Jasmine Sullivan, I believe, right? Is that who did it? Or
And you know, after seeing it, I would not rule out a Best Picture nomination either. I would say if it were still the sliding scale, I would say no, probably. But because it is a hard 10, and then like the last at this point on October 12th, right? Yeah. The last like 2 or 3 spots are pretty open. And if you know, like she's really the selling point of this movie, Danielle. So if people are just telling their friends and other voters, like, just watch it for her, and people check it out, and they might be moved by her performance in the movie, and they can also, it's very easy to like the movie, I think, and
yes.
you can vote for it because it's also important.
Right. So right now it's in the experts, it's 20th place. But I actually agree with you. I think it has like a much better shot of getting like, so my best picture lineup, I think, is probably similar to yours. And I have the seemingly set 7, with 6 of which we've seen, and then Babylon. So it's Fabelmans, Everything Everywhere, Banshees of Inisherin, Top Gun, Women Talking, Tar, and Babylon. And then I have Woman King, Glass Onion, and Elvis to round out my 10. Those are also the top on the expert, so I'm pretty chalk on that front. But I actually think that Till would have a very strong case for like an 11th or 12th spot right now, and that who knows if Woman King could go the distance because it's already seemingly out of sight, out of mind, even though it's done really well, I think.
It's
And
still doing well. It's dropping. It has small drops every week.
And then
unlike
Glass
some other
Onion, we'll
films.
see if that actually if like the Academy responds to it, and who knows. And Elvis, I think, actually is like getting close to being set in there, I feel like, as a Best Picture nominee. But I think Till would be a similar comp to Elvis, where it has this incredible performance. And
yeah, and they're actually both, for very different reasons, broad appealing movies.
yes, and I could see it really easily not easily getting in, but I think it'll have competition. And I mean, we were going to talk about this too, like Brendan Fraser continues to get like euphoric standing ovations for The Whale. The movie, I still think, is polarizing, but that's from a critical perspective. Are people going to like also, is The Whale one of these two that could easily get a Best Picture nomination because of the, the love for Brendan Fraser?
Yeah. I mean, I have not seen The Whale yet, but it sounds similar to, I guess, Till in a way, where it's just kind of very like empathetic and like broad appealing to people. Like it might make you cry. I don't know. Did you cry at Till? Because you cry at everything.
I did not cry at Till. No, I was touched because I think, like you said, I think the movie, I understand why it's like this because it's the real story. I think the movie is actually at its best when it's like her dealing with the grief of being a parent, losing a child, and that stuff's like really effective. And then, but sometimes it's also in competition with the activism, which is maybe not, it does as a movie. I understand why it's like that, but it's like, and her life was like that. So it's like, she can't actually pick and choose and the movie can't either. So I get that. But I was really affected by the parent stuff.
Yeah, I feel like when it heads into the activism stuff, because I mean, understandably, this is also when she's just like dipping her toes into it and she was kind of reluctant at first. Like there is more of a distance there.
Well, it's also like you said, I almost was like, I wonder if there was a slightly longer version of it where it had more stuff fleshed out. But then at the same time, I think the power of the movie is that it's watchable and it's the way it's constructed. And it's like very, like,
yeah,
as someone who is, you're more allergic to running times than I am, certainly, but I like, I'll pass out if I'm like bored with something. And I was not bored at all, like throughout. And I was like, oh, it's very watchable in that regard. I mean, so like, it's not something that it's like,
yeah.
you're gonna be,
and then
you're
also,
chewing the popcorn, but it's like, it's a watchable movie. It keeps you engaged.
I mean, I would hope most people know the verdicts of the trial. But even if you don't, I think if you hear the buzz about her performance, her testimony in the courtroom scene beforehand, I think you would definitely want to stay awake for that. If you're bored by it,
I will say,
don't fall asleep before that scene.
And that scene's great. And like, I kind of like, I'd heard about it, like it's like one shot and stuff, and it's really, really creatively done. I thought that was like a very interesting way to show that, and the quickness of that scene. Again, it's like 5 minutes, and you get her basically. It's not a spoiler because, like you said, it's like real life, but it's her talking about
history is not a spoiler.
The defense talking, or the prosecution talking about like her son and having her talk about him and make him, giving him like humanity on the witness stand, and then the defense attorney just like kind of tearing that down, and it happens in like very quickly, and she has to like pivot through a lot of emotions, and it's really, really well done. I'd actually love to hear, I've not read a lot of interviews or like seen a lot about the production of the movie, but I'd love to hear about that scene because I just think it's like so interesting, and like how many takes they had to do of that. And it's, again, she's so good in it. I think that scene is like the highlight. Certainly that would be like her Oscar clip. I feel like
he has a lot of Oscar clips in this.
She
movie.
does have a lot though.
Yeah.
so
like a lot of like it's and yeah, and we know, emotion plays big. So
yes. So do you think, so let's ask this. So I was saying, like, I moved her up to third, and I could easily see her winning. I think because I still have Cate Blanchett, like we've talked about. Tar is an unbelievable performance from like a great actress and just an all-time thing. But it's not emotional like this is, certainly. And even Michelle Yeoh in Everything Everywhere, who I'd have in second, I think is going to be like a sentimental fave, certainly, and like a veteran actress who long deserves this kind of recognition, finally getting it. So Danielle Deadwyler is a relative newcomer then by comparison, but I mean, I think her performance, like I was thinking this morning, is the best actress race like last year, then is Cate Blanchett Power of the Dog and Danielle Deadwyler Coda? And then in the end, does that like help her win in the end? Because
yeah, totally, because like that is the most emotional performance. Like I don't even think like the biggest tar head would disagree with that.
No.
And
is that what we're calling us, tar heads? Yes.
Yeah, tar heads. Like of the top best actress contenders, Danielle's performance is by far the most overtly emotional.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to look for any subtext in it. Like it's like she's crying, her eyes are perpetually welled up in the movie. Like even in the first act, like she's always like on the verge of crying because she's like about to send her son to Mississippi and doesn't want to. And it'll hit people in the feels. And I think the other contenders like Kate, both Michelle's and Viola, I think I love all those performances, and it's very wide ranging and also emotional, all of them too, in very different ways. But I think if you're just kind of looking for that cathartic emotion, and that's what you vote on in similar way to Coda, then Danielle is like the obvious pick for that. And like I said last week with how Kate, and really now that I think about it, like almost any one of these contenders this year probably could have won in the last 3 years, at least one time in the last
this is a loaded lineup, I feel like.
Yeah. So like I think like Danielle could have won last year.
Definitely.
I think, again, like we said last week, I think the issue for her is that Till is seemingly at this point in mid-October a weaker film than these other films like Tar, Fablemans, and Everything Everywhere, especially.
Right. By comparison, I think, like we said, like those are three certain Best Picture nominees, it would seem at this stage. And Till is like we're talking about.
Like
I don't
last
think
year, if she were contending last year when none of the Best Actress nominees had their films nominated for Best Picture, she'd be completely fine if Till doesn't get a Best Picture nominee or nomination, you know.
But it's also not off the table. I would say that Till could get a best, like we're saying, it's definitely in play. It's not.
It needs to fill out, because I was actually thinking about this with like Ma Rainey when it was still a sliding scale. Like they had 2 acting nominations, a massive front runner for Chadwick Boseman, and it won 2 Craft Awards, and it still didn't make Best Picture because it was a sliding scale.
So like Till would, if it would, like Ma Rainey would have definitely gotten in on a 10, I think.
Yeah.
So
I would think so. So the other, so like you said before, you know, Tar opened in limited in 4 theaters in LA and New York. It made great PTA. I think it was like 40,000.
Yes.
PTA, right?
It was like a pre-pandemic release strategy and results.
Yeah. So again, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens when it goes wide on the 28th, when more people see it, because it's, you know, I don't agree that it's a cold film, but it's her the movie doesn't handhold you. It doesn't provide a lot of answers. It leaves it up to the moviegoer to formulate their own takes on it. It's not very, you know, like spell things out for you. Like Till has a ton of postscripts about like what happens.
I actually, I mean, like, I'm not saying this to denigrate the general public, because I am a proud member of the general public, and I'm very basic.
I know, like I'm very basic.
I would say that like most people, if you're a regular moviegoer and you went and saw Tar and went and saw Till, I think you'd like Till more. I do believe that, because I think it is, like I said, it's like a mainstream studio movie, and Tar is like a weird esoteric indie movie, and like that I think would be the difference there. So I think people will see Till and be, you know, and be like, oh, it is really solid. And like, I enjoyed it. Oh, you're definitely going to cry. Like I was saying, like there was the more art house movie in our town near us was Manhasset's Theater, right? The 3-screen, still there, Joyce.
Yeah, still there.
Not close. Way to go. And they played like art house movies, and like, you know, like kind of like like the Full Monty would have played there, you know, like that kind of thing. And I'm like, Till would absolutely, it should be playing there and would do really well with that crowd. It feels like to me, like it's like going to be a movie that like people see and are like, oh man, that Till is really great.
It's very broad, and
broad appealing.
Very broad appealing, and it's like sort of a history lesson, but not really. I mean, I would hope you don't like learn history from just movies. Like if you don't know anything about Emmett Till and you see this movie, I would hope you do research afterwards.
I mean, I think that would be helpful.
But I guess like the other thing is with Cate Blanchett, you know, like who knows if she'll win or not in 5 months. Like that's a completely separate thing, but it's not wrong to say right now that she's the front runner.
No.
And the thing is, like, no one can agree on who her closest rival is. Like there are Michelle stands for both of them, and now Danielle's on the come up, you know, like Viola's a little more lower tier, you know, like 4 or 5, but can agree on who the alternate is to her.
I think that's definitely a tricky thing. Like we've talked about with like, from a Best Picture perspective, we've seen in the past, like what is the alternate basically, and how do you pick an alternate? And like here, it's the same kind of thing. It's like there's going to be a lot of support for the Michelles and Viola and Danielle, and we'll see whatever else comes out. You know, like if Olivia Colman pops, if Empire of Light has like a great resurgence, or you know, like Relanding and Margot Robbie for Babylon. I will say, like, you know, I think critics groups are definitely going to go with Cate Blanchett. I feel like, you know, I'm sure Michelle will in at least one of the major ones, like New York seemingly. though maybe not, because Cate Blanchett is so like the movie is very New Yorky, I feel
I don't
like.
know.
So
You
who
think she's gonna
knows?
sweep again? Like,
But I would say like Danielle easily could win like
I think Danielle will do very well in the regionals.
so the regionals are certainly, and I think like the televised shows, I think she'll have a real strong shot. I think she could win at the Globes easily. I think like Critics' Choice Awards, honestly, I could see, even though it's the critics, I could see Danielle like doing well because it's such a broad group. And even SAG, I think you could argue that she could compete there
SAG,
too.
I mean, like I think I said this last week. Like, it's a very SAG friendly performance.
So like if she goes in, like again, it could be like like last year, like Jessica Chastain was the front runner, ended up like being the front runner because she just kept winning. And I'm like, if Danielle Deadwyler wins like a couple of major things, all of a sudden it's going to be like, well, Danielle Deadwyler is going to win.
I mean, like, this sounds like stupid to say, but like obviously, like it would help her to win something.
Yes,
in the
I know what you mean though. I don't think it's stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like in a race, usually like we're expecting Cate Blanchett to just like dominate.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm saying, like, I don't think she can just like win the Oscar cold.
No, she can't win the Oscar cold, but I do think like if she does win something and win something else,
Yeah,
like
then
the
you have
momentum.
to take her seriously, and then like is the race changing and the narrative changing.
Right. I got to say, I probably will end up, as we're doing, I'm probably move her into second behind Cate, ahead of Michelle Yeoh. I think the Michelle Yeoh nomination feels like a absolutely nomination and not as much of a potential to win.
I don't know how I feel about her win chances, like even before Cate, because I was thinking like just like the genre-ness of the movie.
Right.
Like I think that's the advantage that Danielle has over Michelle Yeoh.
Right.
Just because that's just like a almost typical biopic, really, till and then Everything Everywhere. Like that, I can see some like older members not watching or turning off.
Yeah. Though
Like,
we've seen
it's weird for
anecdotally, I think they did an Academy event this
Yeah, they've been
weekend.
doing, I mean, props to them. They've been
Yeah.
campaigning. They did another screening and the cast was there, and it was like a huge hit with everyone there. So it has the movie has a lot of famous fans.
A lot of famous fans, a lot of acting fans, which I think will help the actors get in. Certainly Michelle and the supporting cast as well. So I don't know. I Danielle, I could see. I think it's going to do really well, and I don't think I by the time watch me have like till like 5 predicted nominations by the end of this. I mean, like sure, but like
I mean, yeah, I don't think there's not really another acting play for it because it's really just about her, even though she's not in the first act that much because it focuses on him in Mississippi and his murder.
I thought Jalen Hall plays Emmett Till, right? Is that right? And he was great. I actually really liked that performance. It's like pure. It's I mean, I think obviously intentionally so. Just a very charm forward, very likable performance to make his death so much more upsetting and hurtful.
Like
obviously,
just a child full of naivete and life,
and just so much life. And I think the structuring of the movie to show that life, it kind of like really does make travel through the entire movie, so what we're talking. Like you're putting a personality on the history lesson, and I think that's like I think people, like you said, like everyone has heard of Emmett Till, certainly, hopefully, before the movie and knows the story, I would imagine. But when you're reading about it, it doesn't seeing him at least presented in the film gives it obviously an added level of
right.
Like,
and then there's also to this day there's disputed accounts about like what happened in the store.
Sure.
So they made a choice in the movie to go with the one they did.
Yes.
And
they kind of like, I feel like based on like, I'm not the Joyce, I don't know if you know this, I'm not a great reader, so but I've obviously heard of
you don't say.
No, but I would say like a lot of it seems like they like it's a lot of this stuff, like the events in the store and just everything is kind of like an aggregate of things that potentially happened, right? Would you say that's like kind of like how they play it? And like they show his like, so like the whistling obviously being a contentious thing, but like that maybe he was stuttering, right? Because he had a stutter, and like the whistle was how he like helped combat that stutter. So they show him stuttering earlier, I think, and then later have the whistle. It's all stuff that it's like plausible that it could have happened or whatever. But the result is the result, and we know he was brutally
Yeah.
murdered. And
I will say,
killers are not brought to justice.
during the testimony scene when Haley Bennett plays the woman Carolyn Bryant who accused him,
Yes.
you know, and she gives a false testimony, which, like, you know, it's everyone knows really if you know the story, but like at the screening, the people in front of me, they were gasping and saying no when she was on the stand saying that he assaulted her and everything. And I was just wondering, like, did you not know this beforehand?
Maybe. It's
Or are
interesting.
you just like so into the movie that you can't believe she lied, or did you expect the movie to change it?
I think you're
something?
hoping. Honestly, you're hoping. Like the trick of the movie, at least for me, when I was watching, is like, oh man, it's so you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
And
like
it's
I
still
know she's gonna lie on the stand.
it's so infuriating that it happens because she's such an asshole in the movie, in the character, you know, and like, oh boy, it's very, it makes you very upset, I think, watching it. So I think maybe if they were infatuated by the movie and lost,
I mean,
in
I'm just
production.
hoping like they knew that she lied.
Right.
Like,
right.
I hope this wasn't breaking news for them. That's
Right.
all.
Haley Bennett, interesting to be in the movie, I feel like, because she's like pretty famous and she doesn't have a lot. She's basically got like 2 scenes. It's like an
It reminds me
cameo.
of Alexander Skarsgård doing Passing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Which he just did as a favor
right.
to Rebecca. So
and it's like she's great as this you know, in her performance. I think it's like really really good. It's a solid. I think people will like. I don't know. I was like, I definitely think people. I guess if people aren't going to give it a chance, they're not going to give it a chance. But I think if people watch it, they're going to tell other people they should watch it. It felt like the word of mouth, I think, would be good, not just from an audience, like a box office perspective, but I think from an awards perspective and a voter perspective. If you're watching that movie, you're going to be like, that was a good movie. Like Patricia Arquette, I think you sent me that tweet, was like, just
she was just praising it the other day.
And I feel like the more people who watch it are going to be like, oh my God, you got to watch it. Have you seen Till? Like, it feels like that kind of thing that could happen. And if they do a good job getting the screeners out and getting, you know, people are not going to like bury it at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah, like it is good that it opens this Friday.
Right.
So it's good it's not a late release. Right. So they should definitely get the screeners out, especially to SAG.
Right.
It's like it's good it's not like a December thing like Babylon or I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Right.
You know.
And it's also, like we said, I think it's just very like, I'm not saying this as a knock. I think like it is very much like a straightforward movie that you're not going to have to like you said, like Tar doesn't really.
Yeah, you don't have to think a lot about it.
Right.
Like,
it's just
and,
this, like,
you
this
leave
is
it feeling
really, you're going to connect to it emotionally.
Yeah, like you're going to leave it feeling righteous because again, not a spoiler, but one of like the last like postscript thing they do is they say, you know, the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act was signed on March 27th, 2022. So
shows you how the arc of history is slow, Joyce. Very, very slow.
Yeah. Just like changes in Oscar history too. So
yes. So maybe I'll put Till in for Best Picture. I guess that's the long and short of it is Till maybe is my 10th Best Picture nominee instead of Glass Onion. I don't know. I don't even know. What can you do? So we mentioned The Whale. I guess you want to like that was my other like I briefly talked about him. I'm like another standing ovation for Brendan Fraser. Like people like bowing at his feet at the London Film Festival. Joyce.
Yeah, London Film Festival is happening currently. And I guess the screening was yesterday.
Yes.
But yeah, he got like a huge ovation.
And so like again, he's like an ostensible front runner, certainly for Best Actor. I think most experts have him winning. Let me take a look here. Sorry. Just a lot of scrolling, Joyce. There's a lot of contenders that you could choose from if you're picking on Gold Derby. Just a ton. But yeah, 21 experts predict the nomination, 15 predict the win. Not me. I still have Austin Butler winning, but Brendan Fraser. Does The Whale? I mean, The Whale could get a Best Picture. We have not seen it. It is interesting to me that they've shown that it played at TIFF, Venice TIFF, London Film Festival. Does it come out for another 2 months?
The rollout. I sort of see the strategy there because it also still hasn't released a trailer. Because Woman Talking finally released a trailer this week.
Yes.
Too. But Whale still nothing for now. And I feel like it's kind of just doing the festival circuit and really dining out on, not in a bad way, on these like rapturous responses to Brendan.
Right.
You know.
Mm-hmm. And it's
And
basically
I
building.
like initially, like last month, I was thinking like, even before it premiered, because like, you know, like he's been such a ostensible frontrunner before anyone saw it. Like as soon as he joined the movie, you know, people were like, oh, this could be like his Oscar ticket. I thought like he could just be like maybe just like a film Twitter internet thing where, you know, like we just love him online and that's where his support is, but it doesn't translate in the real world. But, you know, based on like these reactions everywhere across the globe now, like it seems like he will have real world support.
Yes.
You know.
And I guess then, so like the reason I put Elvis, like you mentioned this, so I'm like biting off of your analysis, but I'm like Austin Butler, Elvis feels like a very strong Best Picture contender. So like Austin Butler winning would not surprise me because I think he could get a Best Picture nomination. He would get in for Best, but is The Whale also a Best Picture nominee? I guess. And then you're just like, I mean, it's definitely high up on our odds. So people are predicting it, seemingly because like they're also predicting Brendan Fraser. But maybe I don't know. I just felt like Elvis is a huge spectacle movie, so I feel like it would have a lot of people like in a lot of departments really appreciating it. The Whale is obviously much smaller, takes place in one location, adapted from a play. I know that like Matthew Libet had shot the movie, so I'm expecting it to be at least visually interesting, but it's not as much of a broad tent technical achievement, I would say, probably, but maybe it is.
Well,
and we
also like
it.
You know, some of the reactions have been polarizing so far. It's like
sure,
sort of similar to Till, but like the reactions are more mixed than the reactions to Till overall as a film. But it's just kind of like about the central performance, you know?
Yeah, I think Till, it feels like the reactions are either I love this movie, it's great, or movie's totally fine. And I think The Whale is, oh my God, Brendan Fraser is amazing, I love it, or this movie is reprehensible, like the Polygon headline where it was like, this is a crime against humanity or whatever because of Brendan Fraser doing this. So it's definitely more polarized, at least from a critical perspective. Who knows what the voters would think? They might just be like, I loved it, it made me cry. It's very sad.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, again, like open slots at the bottom there. So sure, like if it takes off somehow, if like, you know, the voters are into it or that, you know, they watch it for Brendan.
Right.
Like the only reason I have like Austin in first is because I have Elvis in Best Picture, and we know the correlation between those two categories, even though this year Best Actor is weak as hell.
And I mean, I think the history shows that they like those kind of Elvis performances. Certainly Brendan Fraser is also doing a transformation, but I mean, the singing and playing a historical figure is a great way to win an Oscar, certainly. So, and also Austin Butler's awesome and Elvis is really entertaining. So,
yeah, I think, so because I could see both of them winning the Globe and the SAG, you know, like if either of them wins, like not surprising at all. But like with BAFTA, with their system now it's you know, top 3. It used to be 2, now it's 3 because you know we remember what happened with Best Actress last year. Their lineup, 0 for 6. So
that was great.
Top 3, and then the jury picks the other 3.
Right.
So I can see Austin Butler not making BAFTA if he's not in the top 3. Because I think if I think Brendan will be top 3, but I think even if he's not top 3, he would be a jury pick.
Right. And Austin Butler wouldn't make it, and then maybe that like gives Brendan an edge overall.
Especially if he's already won, or well, SAG is after the BAFTAs this year, so especially if he's already won like the Globe and Critics' Choice.
And like Austin Butler, while not a newcomer, like we've discussed, is a relative newcomer to a lot of people because they're in a box.
Yeah,
they don't know anything.
Yeah, they don't watch the Carrie Diaries.
So it's like he is like, again, you know, compared to Danielle, like if you compare Best Actor and Actress, if it's like if Austin Butler is the Danielle Deadwyler of that race, and then Brendan Fraser would be also the Danielle Deadwyler, but also with like the backstory of like a Cate Blanchett somehow, because he's like more known.
And,
you know,
and also like the comeback narrative, although that hasn't really worked out for some people, like Michael Keaton and even, you know, Mickey Rourke in another Aronofsky film.
Now, I think the difference is Brendan Fraser, certainly with Mickey Rourke maybe not a personality wise, not for everyone's taste.
No.
And Brendan Fraser is like very much everyone's taste.
Like the nicest man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
so I don't know. Like I've said, I should just list Best Actor alphabetically.
So let me ask you this about Best Picture. Like we've said, just talking about this, thinking of The Whale and Till as possibilities, and plus, like, still haven't seen. She Said opens up this week at the New York Film Festival, premieres finally. So is that a possibility? And Avatar still coming, and Black Panther is still coming, and Glass Onion maybe. What if, like, I am very bullish on Top Gun. Does Top Gun just not get nominated? Is there a world where, I mean, everyone seemingly, a lot of experts have it in, mostly almost all of them. So it's not like a foreign idea that it would get nominated. But what if it's actually not? What if we're overestimating Top Gun and it's actually not locked in here? I guess. And does that leave room for like The Whale and Till to get in basically together? I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I mean, that's an interesting combo to knock Top Gun out. And I don't know if they would both knock it out
Sure.
that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like too many people watched and loved Top Gun.
Yes. It definitely is the most people I've talked to just generally who are like, it's the best. I loved it. I just worry that people will be like anytime I mention it to like, right, like, I guess people are conditioned to not expect a movie like Top Gun to get a Best Picture nomination.
Sure.
But anytime people the real people, Joyce, I talked to like one or two of them, when they're like, what do you think will get in, or what was your favorite? I'm like, Top Gun. And they're like, oh, really? It's like there's a surprise that it would even be considered, and it seems like I'm a lunatic on the street for suggesting it. Now, we know that's not true, but I'm like, what if more people, like what if the Academy's just like, oh, I'm not even thinking of Top Gun? You know, I think they will, because of, like you said, all the craftsmanship, and people do love the movie, and everyone saw it, but maybe not. I don't know.
I would be similar to, like, you know, Till and like The Whale. Like, I would be more worried about it if it wasn't a hard 10. Like, we're having a hard time filling out the 10. So that's like true. Sure, it could get knocked out by Avatar and Black Panther, like 2 other sequels. But you know, this is the one I have the most data points on right now. Like, it made a ton of money.
Right.
Everyone loves it. It'll probably get a handful of other nominations. There are still people predicting Tom Cruise for Best Actor.
This guy, I still got him in. I can't find a 5th actor, Joyce.
I know. I was like, what if I just like have 4 and like not pick a 5th one right now?
The 5th one, I mean, I'm hoping that he'll start getting momentum, but Gabriel Lavelle for Fabelmans. Let's go.
I think he's too young, but I still have Hugh Jackman in there, which I don't think is happening, but I'm like, I don't know who else to put in there.
And like, even like Bill Nye, I'm not locked in on, I guess, because I'm like, I feel like Sony Classics does a great job of slowly rolling their movies out. And Living, I think, obviously had great reviews at Sundance, went through Telluride, and I think, was it Venice too? Is that right? Or was it another festival? I saw it at Telluride, and it was like, I really loved it. It's
going to a lot of festivals.
And I think, so I'm like, hopefully he gets it. And like I said, I mean, he's absolutely engaging and gregarious and contagiously.
I think he's fine. I think
hopefully he gets in, but
he's like 4th for me.
He's 4th for sure, but I'm just like, man, who knows? Like, it's just very... It's a pretty...
I mean, what is the top 5 right now?
The top 5 right now, Joyce, as I keep scrolling. There's just so much scrolling. This is just really great stuff. But still going. Brendan Fraser, Colin Farrell are locked in here. Austin Butler, Bill Nye, and Hugh Jackman, followed by Tom Cruise, Kelvin Harrison Jr., who is now not eligible because the movie comes out next year.
Which they announced yesterday.
Yes. Adam Sandler for Hustle. Adam's on the campaign trail, Joyce. He was doing a Little Gold Men. I saw him do another interview. He's doing it. He's making a play for it. Good for him. He's great. Hustle rules.
You know, he's coming for the makeup nom for Uncut Gems. So,
I mean, Hustle is a really great movie. We never talked about it. I just loved it. It's like absolutely peak me. Just like it's like a more dramatic version of the Albert Brooks movie, The Scout, with Brendan Fraser, I believe. Do you remember that movie? And man, Adam Sandler is so good in it. And it just is like just a right down the middle sports drama. I found his performance really engaging, and just like, man, I love Adam Sandler. I don't think he has any chance of getting nominated, at least like.
But you know, if there was a year for him to get in, it's this one.
But why not? I mean, I think it's good that they were like pushing him. I think he did an event in LA with Henry Winkler for like a Academy members, and obviously, like I said, doing interviews and stuff. It's great. Jeremy Pope is in 9th for The Inspection. That closes New York Film Festival next week. And then Timothée Chalamet for Bones and All in 10th. Other people
there's
here,
like did you say Diego Cava?
he's not in the top 10 for the experts. The 11 was Song Kang-ho. 12 is Paul Mescal for After Sun, which is a great performance and a really
I
small
feel like
movie
that's
that
just going to
everyone
be
loves.
too small.
I mean, that's an easy BAFTA nomination, I feel like, though.
Yeah, for sure. Like a definite jury pick.
And
sure.
like, it's like you said, it's such a thin year in Best Actor, or at least an open year, let's say, because I mean, we're up to like 12, 13. These are like great performances, but I'm like, he could get, I would not be totally shocked if he got in. It's an A24 movie, so I think people are going to at least know it exists. He is great in the movie. It's like a great performance. Very small movie, though.
Yeah, but I just feel like I mean, we know A24's priority is everything everywhere.
And
then
Whale.
probably the Inspection.
And The Whale. They have The Whale, too. So Gabriel LaBelle in 13th, Christian Bale in 14th, Diego Calva in 15th. This is among the experts. And then somebody named Will Smith in 16th for Emancipation. So one expert is predicting Will Smith gets a nomination.
Sure.
So it's like it is wide open, basically. So I guess any of these people could get in and fill out the ballot. And I think, Colin Farrell to me feels like the Michelle Yeoh of this category, where it's like an easy nomination to predict, and I don't think he'll win.
Yeah, I would love for him to win, but
he's so good in the movie.
He'll win. Yeah, I was just trying to think right now of like, when was the last time Best Actor was this week, and I think it was the last Oscars playback we did.
I was thinking that last King of Scotland, right?
Yeah, because it was Forest Whitaker solo. He's the last person to win Best Actor as just a solo nom for his film.
Yes. Which could be Brendan Fraser, frankly. I mean, I think it'll get makeup and probably like it could get adapted screenplay, but yes.
And then like Ryan Gosling and Peter O'Toole and Will Smith were solo noms for their films. And then Leo was in Blood Diamond when he should have been nominated for The Departed.
It's a very, that's a soft year. So a lot of great performances.
I mean, that was also back when it was a field of 5 in Best Picture. So obviously like fewer chances to correlate with Best Picture, but still it's like a lot of solo noms that year.
Right.
I don't think there'll be that many this year in terms of solo noms, but probably less correlation than Best Actress with Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, it's funny to think how differently we look at those two categories, because obviously Hollywood's run by men. They just care about men's stories and everything. Yes. I don't know if you know this, but
yes,
that's what it's like there. Most Best Picture winners are led by men. And then we just have that link between those, like Best Picture and Best Actor. So even though like we were saying, like there's all these great performances like Paul Mescal in these like tiny movies, or like Jeremy Piven, like The Inspection, and they're getting great reviews and everything, but like it feels like they don't have a chance because we kind of look to the strength of the movie to help us gauge how strong the performer is too.
Yeah.
But if we don't do the same with Best Actors, like look at last year, like they can overcome weak movies because that's just how historically Oscar voters, majority men in the Academy, have voted. Like, they prefer men's stories, and most Oscar films are led by men. Right.
This is a great transition, Joyce, because we were also going to talk about women talking.
I teed it up just for that.
You did.
So.
But
ironically, Rooney's in lead now, right? I was gonna say ironically no lead performance, but I think Rooney's.
I think I don't know if they've officially decided that, right? But I mean, like, I think she is lead.
Yeah.
Certainly. Women Talking premiered at the New York Film Festival this week. Another round of good responses to the movie. The trailer also premiered after the stills premiered on Letterboxd, Joyce, which is really coming.
And then the first thing I sent you those stills, and then I was like, did they just brighten these for the photos, like which like studios do all the time, like for shows and movies, they just brighten the stills, or did they actually go back and change the color grading after all the criticism? And then the trailer dropped like 2 days later, and it's like, nope, it's still the same.
Right.
Like they just brightened the photos.
I feel like there's still a large amount of men online, Joyce, who are not happy with this movie. seemingly. It's the same type of men who are not happy with Woman King and who are not happy with any movie that seemingly has women in the title or just about women. They're still not happy with women talking, but anyone I've talked to is like, it's really good. So I still think it's a very strong contender. Certainly,
yeah,
across
I
the
mean, I
board.
talked to a man the other day who loved it. He saw it at New York Film Festival,
Yeah.
and he loved it. So yeah, like the trailer, I think, you know, like half the criticism was again about the cinematography.
Yeah. It does feel
And
like, again, like I said, it didn't bother me at all. And
yeah,
then
I think like I just got used to it, but I do get why people are bothered by it.
it's certainly a talking point. And like
Yes.
even my wife, who is author Joyce, right, wrote a book about Bring It On. I don't know if I talked about this, coming out in
Oh,
December.
really? Oh, tell me
You can
more.
pre-order it. Yeah, it's great. She saw it at New York Film Festival, and she did not appreciate. She thought it was really good. The thing she said as like were she did notice the cinematography. Not a total fan of desaturation, but she also is like, it's a very heavy movie and not one you're gonna like run to rewatch. Which I wonder if that's like we
Yeah.
talked about with the Fablemans, if as like a, oh man, I can't wait to watch that again. It's just very watchable. Women Talking is like a very good movie that I have no interest in like running to rewatch immediately. No, that
I
doesn't
would
mean
say
anything
you
to
might
me.
want to read the book after.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I'm like rushing to rewatch it either. But it's very good. Like I liked it a
It's
lot.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those movies that's like, oh man, this is great. Like I would like, it's not like as it's like a movie like Gravity was in, like, I'm not comparing it to Gravity in the sense of its like technicality, but Gravity was a movie I saw and I was like, hell yeah, Gravity ruled. Love that. And don't really need to see it again. You know,
I
that kind
have
of
not
thing.
seen Gravity since it came out.
Because
So
I'm like, I saw it in like
9
the
years.
perfect venue and like the theater was great and everything was cool. And it's like, this is awesome. And it's like a trick movie. So you're like, got the trick. Doesn't make
Mhm.
the movie any worse or better. Just great movie, great experience. Women Talking, I thought of like that because I'm like, I liked it a lot. And I think it is like, there is a trick layer to it because of the way she structures it and just like kind of like tells this story, I think, in like the fable aspect of it. But yeah, I'm like not running to rewatch it. Maybe that doesn't matter. Movies don't need to be rewatchable. But I would say, like, if you look at last year, Power of the Dog was a movie that I don't think was as rewatchable as Coda. And I think, or as, you know, that kind of
Although
thing.
I've only seen Coda once and I rewatched Power of the Dog because I wanted to see it with captions because I couldn't hear some of the dialogue
Sure.
when I saw it. It was
I
funny.
watched them both twice, Power of the Dog and Coda. And Power of the Dog on second viewing, I was a little bored. And Coda, I was like, still good. Because it's a watchable movie. But I'm not saying like Women Talking is going to be a Power of the Dog or whatever. I just found that interesting. I'm like, it is not a super rewatchable movie, but it is a great movie. And I think
I think like if you rewatch the movie, you would do it for the performances and like the craftsmanship.
Sure. And I think the performance, like, I don't have it winning SAG, but I do think it could win SAG Ensemble.
It's a great ensemble nominee / winner anywhere.
It really would be great. I mean, like, they're an unbelievable group and they work so well together that it's like, it would be hard. It's hard to pick one out. And that's why I'm like, I think Claire Foy and Jessie Buckley both stand a very strong chance of getting Oscar nominations, but I would be hard pressed to see how either one of them win over the other one because I think they're pretty even. I preferred Claire Foy. You prefer Jessie Buckley. I think that would be like kind of common that people are going to have specific people they maybe prefer over the other one. But
yeah, like consensus would really have to form around one of them because that's usually how you beat a co-star.
And I don't know if there would be a consensus. So I'm just like, but as an ensemble nominee, I think it should really, because I mean, you talk about a deep bench. It's like obviously Claire Foy and Jessie Buckley and Rooney Mara have gotten the headlines. Judith Ivey, like a legendary actress, but I mean, like a lot of people I've talked to like love Sheila McCarthy, who is really,
I loved her. She was great. Yeah,
she's unbelievable in the movie. It's like a great performance. She's relatively unknown, a Canadian actress. I knew her from Die Hard 2, Joyce. She played the reporter in Die Hard 2, who's looking for a scoop from John McClane. She's got to get that scoop.
You know, if she's not an Academy member already, that'll be one of the 2 credits they'll have next to her name once they invite her.
I would love it. I'm like way in. So I was like, someone like that. All the young actors are really incredible, and they're like all relative newcomers. Again, Sarah Polley like is just such a wizard with the cast. So I feel like it could easily get. I mean, I have it getting in like all these places, so it's not like a leap to say it's going to get nominated. But I'm like, I could see winning SAG Ensemble and being like a very strong Best Picture contender that doesn't win Best Picture.
I think I have Everything Everywhere winning Ensemble.
I think I have Everything Everywhere winning Ensemble also, but I could see Women Talking winning it.
So tell me if you thought this was funny about the trailer.
Yes.
They basically put the entirety of Frances McDormand's performance in there.
Yes.
That one thing. And the other thing, Ben Whishaw, MIA completely. And I'm just wondering like if this is kind of the path they're going to take with this movie, because obviously, you know, as we've talked about, he's like the not all men representation in the movie. And do they just not, and I don't think he's been to any of the premieres or festivals either. Like he wasn't at New York Film Festival when they did like their premiere and Q&A and stuff, and neither was Jessie Buckley either, although she like barely campaigned for A Lost Daughter last year either, and she got in. But I'm just wondering, like, are they just gonna downplay Ben Whishaw because they don't like it's like optically you don't want like the guy to like be like the one like being nominated and winning, and like maybe all these other women like canceling each other out, you know?
I mean, I do wonder, sometimes I wonder like how much this is why I'm like loath to be I'm gonna tweet immediately after seeing the movie.
I never do that. No.
I know. And I'm like because I think of it like it premiered at Telluride. I did 2 things after, like I watched it at Telluride, like really knew nothing. I knew about it just based on like what it was, but like didn't obviously know trailers at that point. I think there was the one still image of them just sitting there
that everyone was forced to use for like 2 months until they released.
So it's like, that's all you know. You sit there, you watch the movie, and I was like, I knew the broad strokes of the story because obviously it's based on a book, and I had like researched the book because I don't read, Joyce. I just do my research.
You went on Wikipedia,
yeah, Wikipedia. You know it. Yeah, it's great service. And then I was like captivated by the movie. I thought it was like really good, and I enjoyed a lot of the performances. And like you're watching it, thinking of it like from that perspective, and then just it's a movie. And then after the movie, everybody stands outside and is like yapping about whatever happened. And it's like the 2 narratives were that the visuals were bad, even though I didn't think that at all. I was like, oh really? And like everyone was like, oh yeah, like okay. And then like the cast is incredible, but is Ben Whishaw going to be like the lone nominee because he's the only man, and like, you know, it'll be easier for him to get nominated over like the 3 or 4 women who could get nominated for supporting actress. And so I wonder, like you said, like are they intentionally like avoiding that by being like, actually we're not even going to, like, you could watch the movie and see Ben Whishaw in it and he's quite good, but like we're not going to like make that as like any part of the early push for
it.
Like
they just want to focus on the women. And Sarah basically too. And then also like the cynical part of me is just like, because of the complaints about the cinematography, which I'm sure will just get exacerbated once the movie is released in December. Like are the people men who are already like predisposed to like not liking the movie, are they going to use that as an excuse to like not nominate Sarah?
Yes, I was worried about that.
Yeah.
Certainly was worried about that. I that's why earlier, you recall, like maybe 3 or 4 of these ago, I had taken her out because I mean,
like I did too, and that was before I even saw the movie. So
I've since put her back
in.
I put her back in too, but I'm like nervous that I wonder if that'll be like because I mean I've seen, like, to be honest, we've seen like, I don't think the visuals are I don't think it's bad. I think it's just a choice. That was the choice. You might not like the choice, but it's still, there are a lot of nice, beautiful shots in the movie. And it's like, well,
yeah, like and it's not, you know, again, the other knock on it, which is a complete fallacy, is that like it's just like a stagey play in the barn. And it's not at all. At all. So many scenes not in the barn.
No, but I'm like, I do worry that I'm like, you're right. Like, are people going to use it as like a cheap demerit and be like, oh, it looked crappy, so I didn't like vote for it. I really hope. I'm like,
it's like I could not watch it, so I can't nominate her for director.
I'm gonna hope not. I hope that people can understand like I just think
I'm hoping really, like, because the director branch is still like the most highbrow.
Yes,
really. I mean, it's still a boys' club, but it's they're, you know, like we'll probably have another, you know, foreign language nominee or non-English language nominee, maybe. So, you know, these are the people who did not nominate Aaron Sorkin for the Trial of Chicago 7.
Sure.
So, um, yeah, so I'm hoping like that doesn't happen, but I just can still see that because I can still just see the reaction to the look of the movie getting worse in December.
Yeah, it's definitely like the talking point, and you're gonna have like a lot of smug people being like, "I told you, it looked bad, not good." But it's a really good movie, and like
Imagine
I think,
the anonymous ballots in March.
oh my god, I'm done. I'm already girding my loins. I don't want to. I can't. Ugh. So that's Women Talking, Joyce. We'll talk about a lot more. It comes out December 2nd, and then Christmas Day in the wider release. All of these movies, I'm just like, I'm so curious to see if anybody sees them. We saw like obviously Bros bombed. We didn't really talk about it. And then Amsterdam this weekend also bombed. People don't want to see movies. Certainly, or they've been conditioned to not see like non IP movies somewhat, or non like genre movies. And so like when these movies are coming out, like Tar you mentioned as like a wider release, is Tar, I mean, I'd have a hard time imagining Tar grossing more than Bros in its wide release opening weekend. But
Well,
it
they're
would be
also
a
completely
flop.
different films because Bros was a Universal Studios, like a studio film.
Right.
They
It's not a
released it in,
studio
like,
film. I
3,000
understand that at all.
theaters.
But I'm just like, who's seeing these movies? I guess. I don't know. I'm
Well,
like,
I
but
think the thing with Tar, because I was thinking about this in relation to Power of the Dog, because I know like inevitably people make that comparison, especially if the industry has a colder reception to it. I mean, I know Power of the Dog got 12 nominations, but it was probably like runner-up in like everything except director.
Yeah.
You know. But that was also, you know, the criticism of it was like it's cold and people don't understand it and blah blah blah. I don't know how you don't get the ending, but whatever. And but I think one of the disadvantages for Power of the Dog last year was that it was on Netflix, which is like, you know, that has the widest reach, like very broad, appealing audience base. And the people who would pay to see Power of the Dog in a theater, or I should say, like the people, a lot of the people who watch Netflix would not pay to see Power of the Dog in the theater. You know, like I think like the people who paid to see Tar this weekend in its 4 theaters, you know, they want to see it. Like, I don't think like your average Netflix audience is going out to see Tar right now, you know.
Well, and even currently you're seeing that with like a movie like Blonde came out, was like a very popular pick the first day, and then now has just disappeared basically from Netflix, that no one's really watching it because they don't want, like, you're right, like it's not like it's an arty movie about Marilyn Monroe. If people put that on within 5 minutes, they might just turn it off because they're just
like the people who will pay to see these movies, they want to see it.
It's a
whereas like
audience.
you can find anything on Netflix, like you finish, I don't know, watching Ozark or something, and then like you're recommended like Blonde, and you check it out and like you hate it, you know.
Yeah, the other thing I would say, the one difference I would say, and the reason I don't think Tar will fall to the Power of the Dog, the fate of Power of the Dog, is that Tar is very entertaining and funny. It's a dark funny, but it's funny. And Power of the Dog I didn't think was as entertaining.
Do you think they will realize / like or care, be offended that like they're being mocked basically, like
the object of satire, Joyce, doesn't have to get the satire.
It's the White Lotus again.
It's the White Lotus again. Yes, all the people who were mocked by White Lotus loved White Lotus. And I think Tar, very similarly, I think you'll see people responding. I think there will be people who like find
or they'll just be like, that's not me. Like, I know people like that, but that's
I think there'll be
me.
a few things. I think there'll be, that's not me. I'm better than this canceled composer. I think there will be people who really respond to her and take seriously her reverence for the work. Like at the end of the movie when she is canceled, this is a spoiler, I guess. So if you're watching this and like, you know, whatever, I'm not going to spoil the whole movie, but like, I mean, is it a spoiler if she gets canceled? I don't even know. I don't think so.
No, because that's like, it's part of, it's like, it's been in reviews and stuff. So.
Right. So like at the end of the movie, when she is in the process of being canceled, there's a scene where she like reconnects with her things that inspired her as a young composer, which is Leonard Bernstein. And like, I think I took that as like an LOL because it's so phony, but I think other people might watch it and maybe this is how he meant it, as like oh man, like, you know, going back to what made the work really, like going back to your roots is like somewhat tragic and heartening, you know. And like, even if you're not canceled, if you're like a very famous actor or filmmaker at the top of their field who is like got into this business because you were just a kid in like your attic reading magazines or watching old movies and never could have imagined the heights you would have gotten to, there is some kind of like tragic melancholy nostalgia of like thinking back to you, like reconnecting with the work instead of being like, here's another $10 million movie that I just made, that kind of thing. So I think some people might actually watch it and be like, man, I feel like it's like a tragedy, like, and like, oh, I'm like heartened by that, like to think about reconnecting with the work. And then other people,
and also it's not like for a lot of people like in the arts and the industry, is not a straight path to success. Like,
right?
Most people, there are a lot of more downs than ups. Really,
right.
And then you could have an up and then experience like a huge down.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be like in the movie. It's like obviously problematic, cancelable relationships and misconduct, but it could also just be like you had a movie flop. That kind. It's like I think it would connect broadly to people in the industry. So I don't think I do think Tara will do really well, and I still think she's obviously, like you said, like the front runner. But I think Danielle Deadwyler is coming on strong.
Have you already moved her to second?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Anything else, Joyce? Here, what else we were going to talk? I forget. Was there anything else? She Said comes out this week. Or,
I know. Yeah, we'll do She Said next week, I guess.
She Said, and you're going to see Armageddon Time next week.
Yeah, your favorite.
Love Armageddon Time, which is also after this. As we're talking, I think it premieres tonight at the New York Film Festival. We're doing this on a Wednesday, so it'll have already premiered again at the New York Film Festival. Good movie. Can't wait to talk about it.
So then you'll eventually move Jeremy Strong to number 1.
Well, no, but I have him in 5th right now. Still got him in. Going for it with Jeremy. Love it so much. I'm putting Till in Best Picture too while I'm doing this. And there it is. The face that Joyce just made is perfect.
This is just like, what always happens. We just talk in circles about nothing, really.
Yeah, and then just like end up.
And then you just inevitably predict whatever we just talked about.
Yeah, of course. That's how it works. Yeah, and that's it, I guess. I got nothing else. So I guess we'll be back next week with more Armageddon Time. Like you said, Joyce. Well, this was fun. I'll talk to you later. Bye.